Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you like what you see in this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Today I'll be taking a look at Gears of War E-Day running on my Intel Core i7 8700K and RTX 2080 Super machine, both overclocked. The 8700K is overclocked to 5 GHz and the RTX 2080 Super is overclocked as well. Keep in mind this video is recorded using Nvidia ShadowPlay. In this game it incurs roughly 5 FPS loss. I have the latest Nvidia driver installed as of this recording, driver version 610.88, which was released July 28. So this video, the main reason for this video is to really focus on the technical aspect of Gears of War E-Day, right? You know, not enough is said about the PC port as a whole. You know, when people tend to talk about PC gaming, they just tend to talk about frame rate. But I go way beyond that, right? There are so many things that make up a good PC game, in my honest opinion. So also I want to address you know, some of the comments that I noticed in my previous videos and several of the points that I made in my previous videos. If you've seen my other videos about Gears of War E-Day, you know, so far I've made 3 videos. The first one titled "Does Gears of War E-Day Beta Suck?" How terrible is Gears of War E-Day Beta? Gears of War E-Day is one dead grub. Again, these videos will be linked in the description, as well as my system specs will also be linked in the description. So just to give you a brief synopsis about, you know, several of the issues I've noticed with Gears of War E-Day, right? The first one is horrible optimization, network lag, connection timeout, long time to find matches, long respawn time, long reload time animation, no FOV slider, terrible audio, terrible art style, stiff movements, horrible animation, input lag, hard to read opponents, lack of feedback, terrible camera, stripped out gameplay, horrible hit detection, bland boring maps, mouse acceleration and deceleration, horrible nested settings, default sensitivity is too low, 4v4 instead of 5v5, brain dead AIs, inconsistent gib range, shots don't come out where reticule is aimed, and lastly, the fake hype, the fake positivity, and the fake enjoyment surrounding this game. You know, these so-called content creators that are promoting this game as if it's the next, you know, sliced bread, thicker than a $2 bill. These phonies, these low testosterone incels who are hyping up this game like some kind of cult-like sheeps, right? So, you know, these are some of the issues. I can go in and all, but these are just high-level issues that I noticed with this game, and just, you know, issues surrounding the game as a whole. But as I mentioned, you know, this video really is mostly focused on the technical aspect of the game. So before I dive into that, let me just talk about, in my opinion, what makes good PC port, right? And this is not in any particular order. You know, there's so many things, but by all means, you know, feel free to add in a comment what you think makes a good PC port. But high level overview, consistent frame rates. Even more important is consistent frame time, toggle mouse aim, hold to sprint, uncapped FPS, raw mouse input, FOV slider, exclusive full screen, DirectX 11 or Vulkan instead of DirectX 12, no Unreal Engine 5, and no forced blurry TAA or blurry upscalers like DLSS, FSR, XeSS, right? These are just high level, what, in my opinion, what makes a good PC port. So let me just briefly talk about that, right? So, you know, as you all know, it doesn't matter what hardware you have, right? Whether you have a 4090, a 5090, a 4080, 5080 Super, it doesn't matter what hardware you have, right? You're going to incur a lot of stutters in so-called modern games, especially games running Unreal Engine 5. Even if you're getting high FPS, games tend to stutter all over the place, and it just takes away from the experience, right? In my opinion, you know, for me, what I consider high FPS, I play on a 240 hertz monitor, right? For me, if I can get 120 FPS minimum and above, I'm happy, right? But most importantly for me is consistent frame time, right? Another one is toggle aim. You know, I rather click the right mouse button to aim down sight rather than holding the right mouse button. Holding down the right mouse button puts additional pressure on the mouse to me and throws off my aim, right? Objectively speaking, toggle aim is far superior to hold aim, right? Hold sprint, you know, I like to hold the left sprint button, shift key to sprint, rather than toggle tapping it to sprint. You know, it just completely throws off my gameplay, right? Uncapped FPS, you know, especially for shooters, third-person shooters, first-person shooters, and just overall PC games, right? They should have uncapped FPS. VSync and capped FPS tend to induce input delay, input lag. You know, raw mouse input. There's no reason a game should not read directly from your mouse input. I play at 800 DPI, 1000 polling rate, right? I don't want any artificial mouse acceleration or deceleration, right? The game should read directly from the mouse input. Another one is FOV slider. Okay, it is 2026, right? There's no reason all games on the PC, I don't care if it's a platformer, I don't care if it's a shooter, I don't care what it is, they should include FOV slider, right? I play at a computer desk, I'm 3 feet away from my monitor, okay? I don't want the screen to be so zoomed in where I get motion sickness, okay? All games on the PC, like I said, should include FOV slider. Exclusive full screen, not borderless window, not window, exclusive full screen. You know, when games tend to play exclusive full screen, they tend to incur less stutters because, you know, your mouse is not all over the place in the Windows main menu background, right? Games need to have exclusive, at the very minimum, full screen. No DirectX 12. I mean, what else can I say about this? 99% of games using DirectX 12 tend to stutter and just run like shit. I've shown this in my channel numerous times, right? Where a game would have DirectX 11 and I'll benchmark it against DirectX 12. 99.99% DirectX 12 always performs worse. Stutters all over the place, horrible 1% low, horrible 0.1% low, and just overall just runs worse. It runs like shit compared to DirectX 11 and especially Vulkan, right? No Unreal Engine 5. Unreal Engine 5 is the worst gaming engine in history. Every single game that uses this engine absolutely is blurry, stutters all over the place, and runs like shit. Gears of War E-Day is no exception. And the last one is no Force TAA. You know, the gaming industry, the game devs are so obsessed with TAA, right? The worst anti-aliasing method in history. Every single game that uses TAA looks like it's covered in Vaseline and toothpaste, just completely blurry. You know, it's so blurry. And all these upscalers like DLSS, FSR, their base anti-aliasing is based on TAA. That's why I say, you know, DLSS is blurry, because DLSS is just a slightly cleaner version of TAA, right? That's all these upscalers are. At the fundamental, at the core, it's still TAA, and it's blurry. TAA, DLSS, FSR, they're all blurry. Why can't developers include SMAA, MSAA, CMAA, like all these clean anti-aliasing techniques, right? They don't cover your screen in Vaseline. So that's a high level overview of what I think is, you know, makes up a good PC game title, right? So, you know, the rest of this video, I'm going to compare the RTX 2080 Ti and the RTX 2080 Super. Keep in mind that my other machine has the i9-9900K overclocked to 5 gigahertz and the RTX 2080 Ti. So I'll be comparing that machine to the RTX 2080 Super 8700K, which is also overclocked to 5 gigahertz, right? Stay tuned, you're going to be surprised. So also, you know, talk a little bit about Gears of War E-Day, the lack of optimization, right? This game absolutely runs like shit. Absolutely runs like shit and is blurry and looks like shit. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to hurt some feelings. You know, all these incel low testosterone people, they're going to be upset. But I tell the truth over here. That is what I do. These are the settings that I used in the closed beta and the open beta. Everything's set to low, display mode set to borderless full screen because, you know, exclusive full screen is completely broken. So texture set to high, subsurface scattering set to medium, hair strand and object detail set to on, animation set to ludicrous. Yeah, what's ludicrous is this horrible optimization or lack of optimization. You know, this is the first time I have to set everything down to low just to get above 60 FPS using fake blurry pixel DLSS. What an absolute joke. Here I am comparing the Intel Core i7-8700K RTX 2080 Super to the i9-9900K RTX 2080 Ti. As you can see, this game is just stuttering all over the place. Look at my CPU usage. Look at my CPU temps, CPU wattage, absolutely ridiculous. This is the first time I've ever seen my 9900K over 80% usage at all times, over 133 watts. Look at my 8700K, almost 100% usage. I mean, they're just getting hammered and set to the shadow realm. Like, this game is just absolutely unoptimized. You know, it's so crazy. My 9900K is a major bottleneck. It's bottlenecking my 2080 Ti, because you can see the FPS difference between the two machines is not that different. It's not that there's not a huge difference between the two. Typically, my 2080 Ti is roughly like 20 to 25 FPS higher, but you're going to see momentarily the FPS difference indicating a CPU bottleneck. So for the 9900K 2080 Ti, it averaged 66.7 FPS, while the 2080 Super 8700K averaged 56.25. That is a 10 FPS difference. Here I am in Horde mode to better illustrate my point of the horrible performance and lack of optimization in this game, right? The first line indicates my GPU information. My GPU wattage is roughly 30 to 40 watts lower than where it should be. And then the VRAM usage is under 8 gigabytes, roughly 6.2 gigabyte usage. And then for the CPU, this is where the lack of optimization, the biggest issue with this game is the horrible lack of CPU optimization, right? I've never ever seen my 8700K. This is a 6-core, 12-threaded CPU, right, which is overclocked to 5 gigahertz. I understand it's an older, 7th gen processor, but it's still more than capable, right? Even in 2026, I've never ever seen my CPU pegged at almost 100%, 98% to be exact, right? All cores, all threads are absolutely getting hammered and sent to the shadow realm. It's not like this is an open world title with hundreds, thousands of NPCs on screen, right? Or destructible environment filled with lots of, impressive physics. This is a static, bland, boring environment with brain dead AIs, right? Similar to the people hyping up this garbage game, right? But look at the CPU usage. It's absolutely getting hammered. Look at the system RAM usage, right? It's getting absolutely destroyed too. Almost 24 gigabytes usage, right? And I'm gonna show you momentarily what the system recommended specs this game is recommended. Complete lie. Like it's what the coalition recommends. It is not indicative of the performance, right? Spoiler alert, on the GPU side, it recommends the RTX 3060 Ti. The RTX 3060 Ti is equivalent to the RTX 2080 Super in terms of performance. In some games they trade blows, but for the most part they're similar. Definitely more powerful than the Xbox Series X, right? Which is the most powerful Xbox, right? Which is equivalent to the 2060 Super, maybe the 2070, right? The RTX 2070, right? But just look at it. Look at the stutter. Look at the frame. Look at that. The game just froze momentarily for no reason. Absolutely. Look at that. 0 FPS. And now I'm in the weapon selection screen. The game dropped down to 0. Look at my 0.1% and my 1% low. 0 FPS. And these idiots are gonna come into my comments and say, "But bro, your system is from 2018. It's so old. You need to upgrade to the 5090, the 5070 Ti. That's the only way to play this game." These brain dead morons. It's so funny because I've seen several videos of people playing this game on top high-end machines, right? The Ryzen 9 9950X3D and the RTX 5090, right? They cannot play this game at native resolution 1440p maxed out without using DLSS, right? They get sub 50 FPS. So these idiots come into my comment and say they have the RX 6800 or the RTX 5060, or you take your pick. They'll come into my comment and say that, oh, it's my hardware. Like, these people, look, it's 2026. Okay, people lie, right? I'm showing receipts. I'm showing you on screen how the game runs. Don't tell me how the game runs. Show me, right? Because all you idiots do is lie. You know nothing about PC gaming, and I'm telling you, no amount of patches, no amount of the day one release, no amount of driver update can fix this game. This game is completely broken, right? An absolute disaster technically. Look at the terrible art style. It's not like the game looks good. It doesn't look good. Like Gears of War. Look, as much as I dislike Gears of War 5, Gears of War 5 looks better than this. Graphically, it's more impressive than this, right? Just look at this game. Just boring, bland art style, boring gray environment. the graphics just look horrible, absolutely horrible. And it's so crazy because I can get a 5090 today, 10 5090s if I wanted to. But what's the point? That machine is going to be a 1080p 60 FPS machine in the next 2 years, especially when the PlayStation 6 releases, right? Because with the release of Unreal Engine 6, they've already teased a trailer of Unreal Engine 6. Your 5090, your 5070 Ti is going to become obsolete. It's going to be a 1080p 60 FPS card, right? With the way horrible optimization is in today's gaming market, what makes you think in 2 years' time how it's going to be? It's going to be terrible. As I mentioned, here are the system requirements, the recommended PC requirement, right? On the CPU side, it recommends the Ryzen 5 5600 or the Intel Core i5 11600K. On the GPU side, the GeForce RTX 5060 or the RTX 3060 Ti, AMD RX 9060 XT or 6700 XT, 16 gigabytes of system memory, 80 gigabyte SSD, and then this is for the high graphical preset, right? 1440p 60 FPS, right? Recommending DLSS, FSR, TSR, Intel XeSS, right? So this recommended specs I showed you is using a 3060 Ti, right? At high settings, 1440p 60 FPS. But then idiots are going to come into my comments and say it's my hardware, considering that my 2080 Ti is a lot more powerful than, and 9900K is a lot more powerful than what's listed here. And I have 32 gigabytes of RAM. The system RAM, 16 gigabytes is not enough. If you have 16 gigabytes, this game is not, it's not going to cut it, right? This game can use upwards of 24 to 26 gigabytes of your system RAM. It's absolutely insane. So what's recommended here is a complete lie. Complete BS. This is what I'm talking about. What a joke. Just to give you a context here, I'm a passionate Gears of War player, right? I want to tell you the reason I make these videos. It's not because I like this game. Far from it. I actually think Gears of War E-Day is shaping up to be the worst Gears of War of all time and will definitely be the final nail in the Gears of War coffin. It will be, without a doubt, the death of the Gears of War franchise, right? So the reason I'm making these videos overall is because I am a huge Gears of War fan. I've been with the franchise since day one, November 2006, right? I've played pretty much every single Gears of War game, except maybe Judgment, right? So I've played Gears of War 1 on the Xbox 360, Gears of War 1 on the PC, the 2007 Games for Windows Live version. I still have a disc copy of that game. And I play that game from time to time, particularly the campaign. I played Gears of War 2, Gears of War 3, Gears of War 4, Gears 5, Gears of War Ultimate Edition, Gears of War Reloaded, heck, even Gears of War Tactics, right? The real-time strategy game, right? So I pretty much played every single Gears of War game. So I don't want you idiots coming in my comment and say that the reason I don't like this game is because I'm bad. Trust me, I know more about Gears of War than you probably know the back of your hand, right? So I'm coming from a passionate fan, a passionate gamer, a PC gamer, right? And what I'm saying in these videos is no amount of patches, not the day one release, no amount of driver release is going to fix this game. Forget the technical aspect of it, right? I'm just talking about the game as a whole. Gears of War E-Day is an absolute disaster. The idiots are going to come in my comment and say it's just a beta, right? They always like to move the goalpost and have an excuse or coping mechanism because they don't want to look in the mirror and see their own reflection, right? I'm here, this is my YouTube channel. I'm here to tell the truth. This is not a feel-good channel. This is not a kumbaya channel. This is not a rainbow and sunshine channel. I'm here to tell the truth. Not like these so-called content creators, these people who are faker than a $2 bill, these fake happy people, these fake optimistic people, these fake hypers, right? These liars, right? They do this stuff to get views and just completely lie. I'm here to tell the truth and tell it like it is. Hopefully the developers can come across my video and do something about this game. Because Gears of War E-Day in its current state will bomb badly when it releases. And 2 months is not enough time to fix this game. You need an additional 7 years. It took them 7 years to build this game, and this is what we get. This is what we get, right? No amount of time, like 2 months is not enough. They need to go back to the drawing board and redo this game, completely scrap it. Like, just take this project and flush it down the drain, right? This game requires another 7 to 8 years to fix. This game is not ready at all. It has a lot of issues. And then the funny thing is that, a lot of the people hyping up this game, right? They are casuals. And then they'll say things like, okay, the PvP sucks. Maybe Horde mode sucks, but you haven't played the campaign. The campaign might be good. You imbeciles. Coalition has not made a single good Gears of War campaign, right? Ever since they took over Gears of War back in 2015. Been developing the franchise for the past 11 years, over a decade, and they haven't made a single good Gears of War campaign. Gears of War 5 campaign was absolutely a disaster. Boring, girl boss played out crap, right? Just absolutely boring, unlikable characters, forgettable story, forgettable settings. To this day, I can't get past 2 hours into that game without falling asleep, right? So they haven't made a single good Gears of War campaign. Just because they throw the name E-Day, Emergence Day, the event that started it all, preceding Gears of War 1, the events of Gears of War 1. People are getting hyped up. They're using nostalgia to sell this game, right? But I'm talking about concrete evidence, track record, like measurable history, like things you can actually see and feel. The thing is that people have selective amnesia. People are so stupid nowadays, right? I don't know what it is, right? People, if it's not yesterday's news or today's news, it didn't happen. But I'm telling you that Gears of War E-Day, based on the Coalition's track record, is going to be an absolute disaster, right? I sunk in almost 8 hours into this game, 10 hours, I believe, and I never once had any fun. Never once had any fun. When I talk about Gears of War, I talk about the versus multiplayer, right? Not Horde mode, not the campaign. There hasn't been a good Gears of War campaign since Gears of War 3. Right? And the best Gears of War campaign was Gears of War 1. The others have really been forgettable at best, right? If you want to talk about true fun Gears of War story, it's really Gears of War 1 and Gears of War 3, right? So, this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, look at this game, it's not fun. I mentioned in my previous video that it's very stressful, the versus multiplayer, the beta, this game, it says it's a beta, but it feels more like an early access. I've played early access games that are more polished than this, right? From indie developers. And this is a so-called AAA studio, funded by Microsoft, right? So they pretty much have almost all the money they can need, right? All the funding they need to make this game, and they've had time, 7 years, and this is what they can come up with. It's a spit to the veterans' faces, right? This game is not for veterans like me. People who have been with the franchise since day one. Look at the stiff animation. Look at the horrible camera. Before I get into a shotgun fight, I'm dealing with so many hindrances, right? I'm dealing with stiff animation, input lag, horrible audio, network connection, the shots going a different direction, not where I'm aiming. I'm dealing with so many things before the first shot is fired, right? Every single engagement is so stressful. Like this game, I'm telling you, do not play this game if you have high blood pressure, right? Unless you're a masochist who enjoys pain, because this game is just terrible, absolutely terrible. The day one release, like I have no intention of playing this game anymore, right? I'm not gonna buy this game, right? And even if I do, it's just to see, like, hey, has there been any performance improvement? And I highly doubt there's gonna be, based on the Coalition track record, and based on the fact that 2 months is not enough time to fix the technical issue, and overall just the issues wrong with this game, right? Every time I call out things wrong with this game, these sheeps are in my comment section, just defending this garbage. This game is broken on so many levels. Like, I can sit here and make a 24-hour video. This is the worst Gears of War in history, and it's shaping up to be the death of the franchise. Mark my word, this game is gonna bomb on release. This game is absolutely terrible.